Join me now from New York City, founder of Geltrude and Company, Dan Geltrude. Dan, thank you for joining me. Dan, I'm almost kind of dizzy from all of these tax hike proposals coming from the Biden administration and the Democrats. We know that the Democrats have never met a tax they didn't like, but this is absolute insanity. And I'm thinking about all those people who are like, I'm not going to vote for Trump because his tweets offend me, so I'm going to go with Biden. I wonder how they feel today, or just in the past couple weeks, because it's been really wild.
Anyone who wants to be successful in this country is going to be learning very quickly how punitive it is and how much you're going to get punished by the government for, let's say, having an idea and going out there and being successful. Well, you know what? We're going to take a lot of your money. If you look at this tax, this increase in the capital gains tax, and you factor in income tax, and you factor in state taxes like with New York or California. California will be over 56%. I believe New York will be around 52%. Of course, there's a lot more taxes, but it goes to the point, if you are successful, what's the reward? Give more to the government to support these wild spending plans.
Yeah. It's a good point. And the government never spends money properly. It's like it goes to all this wasteful stuff. Nothing really necessarily good comes from it. And as we've seen all these plans that the Democrats would have with all their other projects, it's just absolute insanity. And then we saw stocks tumble after this. So is this just spooking everyone?
Of course it is. It's absolutely going to have an impact on the stock market. The assumption here is that the tax, this capital gains tax increase, is going to go into effect in 2022. But that may not necessarily be the case. It could be retroactive back to the beginning of 2021, which means people are going to make, let's say, investments or decisions on investments and not even know what the potential tax impact is. If it goes into effect, Stephanie, in 2022, you are going to see huge sell-offs in 2021. People are going to take their money off the table, and good companies are going to suffer, meaning companies that have increased the value of their stock. People have had gains. They're going to say, let me get those gains now and pay a lower tax rate while I can.
Yeah. So the Biden administration, they're preparing to unveil a $1 trillion family plan. It's another spending proposal here. It's like the trillion-dollar plans keep on coming. Have you had time to examine this proposal? What are your thoughts?
Well, the Families Plan, the American Families Plan, which is being proposed now, pertains to paid family leave, it's child care support, it's universal pre-K, those types of items. But let's examine how the propaganda is coming out of Washington, D.C., and specifically the Biden administration. The American Families Plan, the American Jobs Plan, which is $2.25 trillion before this. Think about who doesn't like families, who doesn't like jobs. These plans should be called Spend Us into Oblivion Plan. At least you'd be being honest with the American public so that they would understand we are spending trillions like it's nickels and dimes. It cannot possibly last. I hope someone in Washington, D.C. wakes up and just says, this is ridiculous. We have to stop, namely a Democrat in the Senate, hopefully.
Yeah, well, no one's speaking up yet because we still have a lot of Democrats that keep coming up with more expensive plans. We even heard from Congresswoman AOC this week, who is proposing reintroducing the Green New Deal again, another very costly plan, and you don't really get much out of it and has nothing really to do with climate. It's more about regulation and everything else. The tax deadline is looming for 2020. What do you think people should know before filing if they haven't filed yet?
Well, if you're owed a refund, Stephanie, you should file today. Immediately get your money from the IRS as quickly as you can. However, you do have until May 17th. And the biggest challenge out there is what happens if you realize you owe money? All right, wait till May 17th, take the additional time. What happens if you owe money and you can't afford to make the payment? Uh-oh, there's the problem. what you must do is still file the tax return, even if you can't make a payment, or you could only make a partial payment. Do you realize that not filing your tax return is actually a crime? So file the return so that you're not going to subject yourself to the failure to file penalties, which can go up to 25% of whatever tax that you owe, and then work out a potential payment plan, which there are payment plans available to pay in monthly installments, and also there are offer and compromise plans to be out there. So file the return and then try to work out a payment plan if you can't afford it.
Yeah, that's a great point that people should still file. And you know, 2020 has been such a hard year for so many people. And so I would imagine that people would probably be dragging their heels on having to pay their taxes. And the payment plan is something that probably a lot of people might have to do.
They might have to do that. And you know, there's another danger out there, Stephanie, and that is if people say, you know what, I'll pay by credit card. Well, if you have no other way to pay, okay, pay that way. However, the IRS is going to charge you approximately a 2% processing fee for the privilege of paying some taxes by credit card. And also, if you don't clear up that balance, as everybody knows, now you're paying credit card interest, which is 15 or 20%, whatever it is, and then it really becomes a big financial burden. So really be careful if you're going to pay by credit card and have in mind how quickly you can get that balance paid down.
Yeah. Really quickly, Senator Bernie Sanders again introduced a bill to make college free, and he wants Wall Street to pay for it. It's interesting how some of these politicians just pick random industries or people to decide who needs to pay for what. How do you think Wall Street's going to react to this, by the way?
I don't think it's going to react well at all. What the proposal here is that on the purchase of stocks, you're going to have a 0.5% tax, and then there's going to be a tax of 0.1% on bond trades. So it's just more and more tax. But remember, this is being called free college. Does that mean no one pays for it? Of course not. In the end, Stephanie, when you're talking about taxes, we all pay in spite of whoever you think is the target.
Yeah. It's really unfair. So it was like people have to pay for everyone else to go to college. I mean, what about all of us who already paid for college, paid for our student loan debt? No one's going to write me a check. Where's my check? I'm kidding. I don't want
it. No check for you, Stephanie.
Oh, what a scam. Anyways, we got to leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Republicans are fighting